Welcome, Team Wilpers crew. My name is Coach Justin Harris, and welcome to our Summer Run Challenge, week number 3. All right, athlete briefing. So today we're going to talk about a few things, but I always like to start with the basics with how to interact with us and whatnot. So make sure you subscribe on YouTube. If you need to find us and interact with us and want to interact with us, that is Team Wilpers at Instagram, Team Wilpers at Facebook. And for this particular challenge, we communicate in the Team Wilpers running group on Facebook, and there you can share your victories and wins. You can ask questions about how to navigate things and find more information from us, like our one-on-one coaching and our consultations and all that stuff. For me, you can find me at J Harris Coaching on Instagram and Facebook. So one last thing I'd like to point out is our all access membership. It allows you access to switch the difficulty levels, so you can change that as we go along. And then it also provides you strength, the 3 days of strength training written by Ava Fagan, who's coach, Mr. Matt Wilpers' coach. And the training for this particular block was changed and written specifically for this challenge, which is focusing more on the speed side of things, but really about being nice, short, and sweet as we're in summer and navigating vacations, kids home, warm weather, and all these things. Yes, we're building towards marathons. A lot of people are, and halves and stuff for the fall, but it's really good to cycle the speed. So anyway, join All Access. It's $10 a month. Really simple, easy. I think it's like 33 cents a day. You also have access to marathon training plans, half marathon training plans, novice, beginner, intermediate, like all that stuff. So for 33 cents a day, man, getting a lot there. Okay, so all right, for week number 3. So currently you're in week number 2. Week 3 picks up a little bit. All right. So on Monday stays the same. I just kept that it doesn't stay the same. It lifts up for week 3. So this will be the most speed play intervals we'll do. Make sure you're focusing on, walking the recoveries. When we used to run track and do intervals and stuff, sometimes you jogged a little bit just to move around, but most of you stayed there and waited because the V in VO2 max stands for velocity. It's really important to have higher velocity. So much rather you have run faster, as long as you're strong but in control and smooth, then add more reps here, okay? Wednesday over-under stays the same, all right? I'm repeating these things so that you can really learn the skill and add this session to your toolbox of workouts that you utilize, okay? So that stays the same. In the next block, we switch to threshold repeats, okay? Thursday run picks up a little bit for some people, and then Saturday we have our half marathon pace work, which I just wanted to touch on a little bit here. So on the half marathon pace run, so I'm trying to make this short and sweet, right? So thinking more 5K, but with a 5K, the priority levels for our key sessions. So key sessions are VO2 max, threshold, and your long run. So depending on what distance you're running, the focus shifts on which of those three are the priority. For a marathon, the priority is the long run, then the next priority is threshold, and then next priority is VO2 max. They're all important, but which ones, if we had to pick one for the week, what's the most important, all right? For a 5K, all right, it's really VO2 max, then threshold, then long run. And one of the things we can do, if we're not getting the volume with the long run, then we can get a little bit more intensity in there. And so what we're trying to do here, just like we're oscillating in and out with the over-unders, essentially we're oscillating into half marathon pace, which based off your distance test or a recent race result, you can figure out your half marathon pace. And then we oscillate back down into a normal aerobic run pace. That's kind of your recovery. All right, so don't run faster. Maintaining your half marathon pace isn't better for longer. All right, we know what we're doing here, so follow along. All right, and then it's really the whole session's about the second 3-minute effort, and it's really about the next 3-minute effort. The next half marathon effort. And there, with the half marathon effort, we're kind of using the front part of the run and the first half marathon build to like generate a little bit more fatigue. and then that last one is really what it's about. So try to sit with it, be with it. Don't try to drive the pace. Faster is not better. All right. We don't want to take away from our Monday sessions. Okay. So, so with that Saturday long run, now we're bringing a little bit more intensity. And if you go and add even more intensity to it, then we're carrying too much fatigue going into next week, which is an unloading week. And I'm going to foreshadow a little bit with next week. It's an unloading week. And last build, in previous builds and training challenges, people are like, well, I don't want to unload. Well, guess what? What ends up happening is when we need to pick it up on block 2 in week 2, 3, we don't have as much capacity, and that's where people are failing, their runs and sessions and just struggling too much. So take the unloading week as an opportunity to kind of, every workout we squeeze a punch. Week 1 we squeeze, 2 more, 3 a little bit more, 4 we're letting go so we can absorb it. The way you get better is you absorb training. It doesn't mean you just do. It just doesn't mean that you do more training. Okay. So with that said, I want to get in. That's kind of what's coming for week 3. Okay. So VO2 max increases a little bit. The aerobic runs increase a little bit. The over/under stay the same. In the long run, we bring a little bit more intensity to it. Be careful not to do more. Follow the plan. All right. This is what allows you to really progress through the plan, and so that we can deliver results for you. Okay. If you're curious about how it should go for you, or some nuance here, interact on the Facebook group, or get a consultation with one of our coaches to see how to navigate these different pieces into what you're doing. So if you're training for a marathon, the consultation is cheap. All right. And it's a big bang for your buck. All right. Or find one of our coaches that are available, one-on-one coaching. Okay. So that's how you really fine tune this stuff. All right. Otherwise, you're just putting all the pieces together and trying to figure it out. Make it specific for you. That's one-on-one coaching and consultations. The training here is we're trying to capture the largest audience and get them into the sport in a healthy way so that you can perform. All right. So in order to talk about performance, all right, we need to talk about training in the summer. And when we're training in the summer, there are some difficulties here with my one-on-one private clients. Where in the Northeast, we had a lot of rain and cool weather. It wasn't cold, but it was just cooler than normal. And then all of a sudden, heat dome, now it's summer, right? Boom, here we go. So it takes several weeks to acclimate to it, to get used to it, and I'm going to talk about some tips on how to navigate it. And we have it on our Facebook and Instagram from a post last year of kind of how to navigate training in the heat. I'll post it on my Instagram. We posted it a few weeks ago. Okay, so let's get into these tips for running in the summer. So one of the things we used to say in cross country and high school and stuff was summer miles make for fall smiles. All right, and so if we think about it, there's millions of high school and college kids getting ready for fall sports where they have to train in the heat all over this country, and they find ways to get it done. All right. And then they perform in the fall. So same thing. It's all about building towards the fall and using the summer to get you there. You can't take off the summer and expect results in the fall. It does not happen. All right. As we say, quick to ripen, quick to spoil. All right. So, if you miss out on a lot of training, then you got to really ramp up. It's super intense, very precarious line, and then you fade pretty quickly. Instead, if I say less like a banana, more like a potato, we want to steadily increase our training load so that we get to a higher peak, and then that means that we'll come off that much longer. So when we get into peaking for races and stuff and have those conversations, at the end of the day, it's the longer you train, the longer you can sustain being at a very high level. It's not just one magical day. Sorry to burst that bubble. Okay. So some of our tips at Team Wilpers and myself about how to navigate summer training. All right. So tips for running in the heat. So first off, before we get anywhere, hydration is key. All right. And hydration for a run does not start before the run. It doesn't start the morning of, the night before. It's like 3 days prior. Okay. So if you have a Saturday long run, and Friday you're out, in the heat and not drinking, and your urine is very yellow, and Thursday you did the same thing, you're going to have a tough run. Remember reading a research study, I can't find it. It was about a decade ago that I read it, but they took college trained runners. So not just like sedentary college kids who weren't runners. They took collegiate athletes and they looked at their hydration levels going into a 10K. And they saw student athletes that were 1% dehydrated. It accounted for something like 15 to 20 seconds in a 10K, which, doesn't sound like a ton, but when you're competing at a high level, that really goes a long way. And they're racing around 31 minutes to 33 minutes. So if you're racing more, it's going to compound more. It could be a minute difference for you at some times over 30, 35, 40 minutes. So it really starts beforehand, and definitely want to include some electrolytes. You don't need electrolytes in every drink that you drink. Water gets most of the job done, but being on top of your electrolytes. So if you work out and you notice a lot of salt on your face or your clothes stained in salt, that means you lose a lot of salt, all right? So you got to make sure you get that in while you're doing it. But hydration starts days before the run. The way you tell you're hydrated is not to have clear urine. Sorry to be TMI here, but totally clear means you urinated out all the goodies, minerals, all that stuff, and you're actually overhydrated. So it should be a light tint of yellow. It shouldn't look like Ninja Turtle ooze. Sorry. All right. Next tip, after hydrating days ahead of time, all right? And again, as they say, is the best time to plant a tree was 25 years ago. The next best is today. So if you made some mistakes, don't chug water. Just start sipping. Bring water with you through your run. You can stash it somewhere if you run loops. You can use a vest, a handheld, all these things. Are they annoying? Yes. We want to just run free without any device, anything. Great. But during the summertime, we need it, especially the people down south. All right. So the next thing is to beat the heat. All right. And this is another one that stinks because it means you got to wake up early and get out there. I have clients who live in Florida and Texas, and I have some of them that get out at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to get it done. When I lived in Hawaii, I did the same thing. All right, it's a little bit lighter. Some people argue that, in the evening it's a little bit cooler. I think that's just because you got exposed to it a little bit more. If you actually look at it, sometimes it is the case. Most of the time it just feels cooler when it was 95 degrees and now it's 80 degrees. It feels cooler, but it's still taxing on your body. So plan ahead, look at your weather, see where the best temperatures are, and try to make it happen. It definitely is not at lunchtime during the middle of the day. So beat the heat. Get it in beforehand, and then you have all day to recuperate and get there, okay? Tip number 3 is dress to impress, I say, right? Not just to look good, but to have materials that work for you. So first of all, sunglasses if you're running outside, hat, visor to keep it out. I have arguments all the time. A hat traps in heat. Well, get a vented hat, all right? Keeping it off is super important. And across the board is have light colors. I mean, this stuff looks cool, but at the end of the day, it shows every time they look at it is darker colors absorb more heat and make you hotter. So wear lighter colors, okay? And then just across the floor, dry fit, very light, smart wool stuff, like stuff that really breathes really well. Tank top, stuff like that. Obviously, you need sun protection. Be careful there. We don't want anyone risking melanoma or anything like that. But light colors, protect your eyes, hat cover you, sunblock, stuff like that. All right. Tip number 4, heat adjusted pace. Run slower. All right. Now, what does that mean? Well, I've talked about this in other challenges, but on my website, I have a heat pace adjusted calculator, and it comes from this piece of research where essentially is when the temperature and not the humidity, but the dew point. So if you scroll all the way down on Apple Weather or anywhere, it'll say humidity, and then it'll say the dew point in degrees Fahrenheit or Celsius, okay? And that's at the point where the condensation and stuff in your sweat is going to evaporate, all right? But we know when it's super muggy out and humid, it just like sticks to us, right? And that's how we cool off is actually the water, the sweat, evaporating off and then providing a cooling effect. So at the end of the day, what I mean by running slower is if the temperature plus the dew point equal over 50, like over 100 if you add both numbers. So 50 degrees and 50 dew point, that's 100. We're not negatively effective. As soon as it's 50 plus 51, we start being negative. Now, it's kind of like a linear function here. Slightly exponential, it just gets worse and worse, and there's a certain point where you just should not be outside. But this calculator helps walk you through. So for instance, like let me just give I'll just give like a simple, example here so we can see what's going on. All right, so if I say I'm running 10-minute pace, minute miles, all right, and the temperature right now is 85 degrees and the dew point is 70 degrees Fahrenheit, that means I need to adjust my pace my effort will be adjusted by 6%. And so this is a little confusing here. So that means that's 36 seconds at 10-minute pace. So that means if my normal pace is 10-minute pace and it's 85 degrees and 70 dew point, which in Florida is probably even hotter than that in the morning, that means if I'm running 10:36 pace in those conditions, that's like running 10 flat pace, okay? So with that, it extrapolates out. So if we go and race and say, hey, we averaged 10:36 in this race, really, in the conditions, it means like we really average 10-minute pace. And then people do this all the time. They race when it's hot out and they're like, I race terrible. And I'm like, we need to put all these influencing factors into consideration, okay? So at the end of the day here, you need to adjust your pace. So run by effort. Your pace is going to look slower, and that is totally okay. All right. It's, again, everything is based. If you focus more on effort, it's going to allow you to do things. Now, for those of you who are looking at your heart rate and you have a heart rate strap on or a armband on, your wrist is not accurate enough. As soon as you start moving, this loses accuracy, and the error there is between like 1% and 3% error rate. So that could be like up to like, depending on where you are, 1 to 5 BPMs. And when you're at higher heart rates, it gets more off. All right. So when you're running with, like, for me, it's like if I only train by heart rate, like sometimes in the heat, I know I'm going to drift up a little bit, but I don't want to drift up a ton. And if I start dripping up more than 5 BPM, I start adjusting my effort and back down. And then therefore I'm running slower because I don't want it to be a double whammy. It's an aerobic run. It's hot out and I need to run this pace. And then my heart rate is 10, 15, 20 BPM up. It shouldn't be 20 on an aerobic run, but like 10, 15. Then all of a sudden it turned it into a tempo run when it really should be an aerobic run, and we didn't really recover. All right, so we're loading up the body more and making the week more dense, and now we have to recover from that. Okay, so one of the tips here is to be okay with adjusting your pace and your effort. And then basically the last tip is don't ignore signals. All right, listen to your body. All right, if you're like, this is too hot or you're starting to feel lightheaded, turn around, go home and call it a day, or jump on your treadmill or set it up to go to a gym or something like that on the hot days. And this even goes for those who train for marathons and stuff in the long run. But for this plan, this challenge is all about short, sweet. So listen to your body. I'll go backwards. Adjust your pace is going to be slower, and that's okay. The hotter it is and the more humid the dew point is, the more it's going to influence and affect your pace in a slower way. But that doesn't mean you're training less. All right. I'm not even going to get into like humidity in the air and the kind of less oxygen you're breathing. There's some studies that show that, but neither here nor there. All right. Dress to impress. Wear light colors. Wear a hat, sunscreen. I see someone said sports bra squat. Sure. Yeah. Whatever it takes. All right. Tank tops and whatever. But making sure you have stuff like covering your eyes. And then beat the heat, get out early, and then hydrate days ahead. It takes days to be truly hydrated. All right. And so week 3, all right, we're getting into a little bit more volume. This is the most dense week, most volume week, all right, in this block 1. So this is the week, hopefully you didn't do extra the weeks before. This is the week that on VO2 max, you can go faster. It's okay, right? As long as you're being progressive and you're not fading, all right? The over-unders, another opportunity to do them and, test things out a little bit more. The aerobic runs for those doing more than 3 days is going up a little bit. And then we have half marathon paced long run where we're running a normal pace and we're oscillating into the half marathon effort. It'll be a little bit challenging, but be sure to oscillate back down to the easy run pace so that you can have higher quality throughout. All right. And listen to our tips to run in the heat. Okay, so be sure to follow us and subscribe. Team Wilpers here, Team Wilpers on Facebook and Instagram. You can follow me and interact with me on J Harris Coaching on both Instagram and Facebook. I'll just be honest, I'm not really on Facebook personally a ton, so more Instagram. But if you want more out of these plans, sign up for All Access. You'll get way more out of it for 33 cents a day. And yeah, so let's see. All right, so yeah, someone says Sports Boss Squad. Check in Allison Wilson. Average here in Florida, even at 76 degrees and 72 dew point. Yeah, but if that's what we have tested in, I do my So it's so I if you're running 10-minute pace at, I'm just going to do this super quick. Okay, 75 and 72. All right, yeah, that's 4.5%. So if you're running 10-minute pace, that's like 27 seconds a mile. The faster you go, it's the same percentage, but it'll be less time loss. And if you're running slower, it'll be the same percentage, but more time loss, okay? Because you're out there for longer. So anyway, listen, everyone enjoy their weekend. This week 3 is about having the most dense week, so you can bring the intensity on the intensity days, the volume where we need it, and then the following week I'm foreshadowing, we're unloading volume. It's super important. All right, a lot of people like, no, I feel good. And then block 2, when we're at our peak, they're like, I'm toast, I'm tired, I'm not motivated, all these things because you didn't follow the plan. We know what we're doing. Follow what we say. All right, crew. See you all later, and I'll see you next week. Enjoy.